Well, anxiety is something that we know affects adults, even teens. But now, for the very first time, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force is recommending that children as young as 8 years old get screened by doctors for anxiety.
Yeah, the new recommendations also urge screening for depression in kids 12 and older. And joining us now live to continue this conversation is Dr. Scott Miskovich of Premier Medical Group Hawaii. Dr. Miskovich, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So, these new recommendations are not just for kids who are showing symptoms of anxiety or depression, right? It's for everyone.
Yes, correct. And I think that's a really important point to make. What parents should now see is when you go for a typical well child check. Now, that could be your immunizations and things that you might see for the kids that are still due. But as you go higher up, a lot of these are school-related physicals or sports physicals. Those are the normal routine exams. There should be a series of questions now you should expect that your child will be asked to screen for anxiety. Now, at doctor's office, if they're really thorough, most of the time if these are your regular patients, you should start screening them just when someone comes through the door, because that's when you're going to get a chance. So parents should expect a little different questioning from the doctors when this comes on.
And doctor, if you could talk about the difference between getting nervous or anxious and actually being diagnosed with anxiety.
Yeah, Marissa, that's a point that, we often will see that kids are, parents are thinking, oh, they're just a little nervous. I don't want to go too detailed, but we have what's called social anxiety disorder, and we have general anxiety. Everybody probably will understand social anxiety disorder. It's where when kids or adults even get into a situation that's social around other people, they'll get nervous. Well, that does happen, and sometimes people just write it off. No, you should bring that up to your child's doctor because it is something that should be screened. Now, how do you cross that over as a parent? You shouldn't try to, Marissa. That's why that's such a great question. If you feel that your child just has some mild symptoms, bring it up, ask. And that's probably one of the bigger things that this new recommendation is elucidating, is the freedom to start asking both for the younger kids and especially into the teens where this is really becoming a problem.
And doctor, why are these guidelines being released right now? And do you see this changing the way that doctors practice medicine in the future?
Well, I think if any time when we see these recommendations, they come about a year or two too late. So these are well due, and partly for a couple reasons that are very, very challenging. Number one, we've seen a significant rise in teen suicide and even a higher rise in teen suicide attempt. So that is very important. Now, the other thing we're seeing is we can start tracking back and diagnosing anxiety disorder. Well, let me explain that. Anxiety disorder often can be a precursor and lead to full-blown depression. Now, how do kids cope? Well, we talked about suicide, but one of the things they do is they'll get into substance use disorder. We just saw it in our state within the last 3 or 4 weeks. We had a couple of kids that were under 18 overdosed with fentanyl, those colorful fentanyl that we've seen. So we can see that these types of things, that if you don't diagnose them early, can lead to things like substance use disorder, can lead to cannabis use, it can lead to alcohol, it can lead to self-harm. So those are some of the big reasons we're looking at right now.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Miskovich, for your time. Some very important information for parents.